Tanner and head coach Jim Curtin. We're going to start with opening statements.
I'm thrilled to be on a Zoom with Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner as the Philadelphia Union made some
If
news
you could
today.
please remember to keep your
They
lines on mute.
picked up contract options on 7 players.
All right, once again, we're going to start with opening statements, starting with Ernst, and then we'll go to Jim. Once they've done their statements, we'll go into questions. Please utilize the raise hand function. All right, Ernst, whenever you're ready, we'll begin here.
Yeah, if nobody has any comments, I'm ready. So welcome everybody. Obviously another great season for the Union. But before I start my review, I would like to thank the people who made that as successful. Above all, of course, our players and our staff, namely Jim, who did a great job. But also our academy guys who were supporting us whenever necessary, our ownership who were really supportive on us and gave us the possibilities we needed to be that successful. And last but not least, our sponsorship. And I remember that this is really, these times are really hard, and how they supported us was really remarkable. Yeah, the whole thing started quite difficult when we think back at our preseason with all these adversities we had, delayed visa, green cards, players absent, and a bunch of injuries. And yeah, then we didn't win that many games as we used to in preseason, and we had a pretty tough and rough start out in the West. But playing that LA game where we had a quite attractive game, maybe a little bit too attractive in goals in terms of goals against for me. But at that game we realized, and it was some, I would say, initial ignition for the season, that we were capable to achieve something. But then the shutdown came, and yeah, we had to fight a completely unknown different situation during the shutdown. But I must say, how our boys and the staff managed this and how we came back and did our second preseason, that was very impressive. And we saw the first results during the bubble, where we played an extraordinary good tournament, maybe a little bit unlucky towards the end of the tournament. And then in the remainder of the season, winning 12 out of 18 games, playing very constant, very good, also improving the things we wanted to have improved before the season. So we had, at the end, we had over an average in points per game over 2 points. We had a goal against average of 0.87. In comparison to what we had last season, this was more than half a goal less. And when you remember when I was sitting here approximately a year ago, we were talking about reducing our goals against, and I think we did it in a very impressive manner, and that was one of the main reasons why we could be that successful. Couple of more figures. We also were okay in scoring. We tied third with 1.9 goals in average per game. I think 10 of our goals, by the way, were scored by homegrown players, which is really remarkable. And finally, we could win the Supporter Shield, the first silverware the club could get. And yeah, I really was enthusiastic at that time, and of course we all know how the season ended with a dropout in the first playoffs game. But we might not forget that this was something extraordinary we could reach for the Union, and we got really appreciated this by our fans, and I saw a lot of thankful people that day, and that was also pleasing myself, of course. In addition, we could do our first homegrown transfer, which was also always a goal of us, and that shows a lot of appreciation for our players. There are lots of rumors out in addition, but from my side, we want to keep our group together as good as possible in order to be as competitive in the next season. And of course, we need to work in terms of the competitiveness, and it's always harder to stay up top than to reach the top. But we certainly will do our best, and looking forward to some new competitions with the CONCACAF Champions League. Will also be a new experience to myself and to everybody in the club, I guess. Yeah, and yeah, hopefully doing as good as we did this season. Thank you.
Good. Just to piggyback off of Ernst's recap of the season, first and foremost, just would also like to thank ownership, Jay Sugarman, Richard Leibovich, Richie Graham, for their constant support throughout the years, culminating in us lifting our first trophy with the Supporters Shield. To Ernst Tanner and Chris Albright, the best in MLS at building a roster and also setting us up now for an off-season. The work never stops with them, but still setting us up for us being in our most stable and strongest position, both roster-wise and allocation and resource-wise that we've ever been. To my technical staff, Pat Noonan, Oka Nicola, Phil Wedden, Dave McKay, the job that they did all season long to push the players in a unique environment, incredible from them. I'm very fortunate to have them, and I know that they're all in line to do even bigger and better things in this league and beyond. The sports performance department, I always talk about the job Garrison Draper does, but everybody underneath him as well, working so hard to keep the players healthy, available, and sacrificing so much was incredible. To our front office, Tim McDermott, Doug Vosick, the job that Amanda and Erica did this year with us. I know we can be high maintenance, and they do a great job with the players, keeping us going. So an adverse season, a lot of challenges, but very fitting as a club to lift the first trophy and have it be the Supporters Shield, because it was a club that was indeed founded by the supporters. One that, my biggest regret of the season is not having this Subaru Park filled every game to see the great football that we played. But I know when this stadium is full, the next time it is, I not only fear for whoever that opponent is, but also just how loud it will be, and the ceremony that we'll have the Supporters Shield there for them. I can picture how loud and exciting it will be, and we long for that day. So again, a lot of people to thank. I know a lot has gone into this season. It only ends perfectly for one team, and that year it wasn't us. So that's what will motivate us now to attack and approach the offseason to come back even stronger in 2021.
We'll start questions with Tom Bogart.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time. Congrats on the season. Sorry about the final disappointment. This one, I guess, would be for Ernst. I guess just sitting here looking forward now, what are your priorities this offseason?
Well, this is the time where we usually go for players and improve the quality of our roster.
Okay, what are you specifically looking for from those players, and what areas are you targeting?
Well, if I tell you exactly specifically what we are looking for, I get even more offers from all the agents in this world, as in this moment I think it's an increasing number of agents, and you do not even know whom they represent. Just to give you an example, last week I got 3 offers from different agents for the same player, and all claimed responsibility and ownership of the player. So that's how it goes. So we are improving our roster in every sector.
Joe Tanzi.
Ernst, when you guys look at the roster you have now, I know there were certain players last year, last offseason, like Osinio, that you guys had to wait a little while to get back. Is bringing him and then most of this core back with the CONCACAF Champions League in mind, knowing you guys are going to have an earlier start and you want to have a cohesive group and one that's familiar with each other for the start of that competition?
I think so. Yeah, I mean that was one of the thoughts we are having, even not knowing exactly when the competition is going to start. But we already have a real roster under contract, and that is a very comfortable situation.
Matt DeGeorge.
Hey Ernst, without Brendan next year, that's obviously a lot of minutes that you guys need to replace. Do you think that's going to be by an external signing? Do you think that the players that are on the roster, guys like Paxton and Anthony, can take up that role? How are you looking at that?
We at least need to have additions to the roster on that position. I mean, you know, we might not forget if he is even 1 year younger than Brendan when he stepped in. So we're probably going to bring a number 10 to answer your question. But at the same time, Anthony can do various jobs as well. So we used him as an 8, we used him as a 10. He can play as a second striker, and he really stepped up, and he will get his chance.
Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Erica. I wonder if we can talk about Andrew Wooten for a moment here, and how you assess his time here, and whether it ends up being disappointing if this is the end for him.
Yeah, look, Andrew, came in here as a striker. All strikers want to score goals. I think Andrew handled himself in his time here and gave everything to the club. I can even reference the goal line clearance that he had to contribute in what looked like maybe people forget about a small way to us winning the Shield, but was a play that secured the award for us. So again, does Andrew wish that he scored more goals? Do we wish that he scored more goals? Absolutely. But his professionalism, he's a great kid, a great player. He just maybe didn't get, and part of that is on the coach, the opportunities that he would have liked. And then also, when he did get the opportunities, he would tell you he could have done a little bit better with them as well. So, everything isn't going to always go perfectly in soccer. That doesn't, disregard the talent and the player that Andrew is. You don't score as many goals as he has throughout his career, and all of a sudden forget how to do that. So sometimes the fit has to be just right. In this case, maybe things didn't work out, but it's not any one thing, and it's certainly not Andrew's fault. He gave everything every day in training, incredibly professional, and was playing, in training his best soccer down the stretch. And again, I could have done a better job of getting him out on the field and getting him more opportunities. So, both sides understand the situation. I think both sides were in agreement at the end of the year. It was very professional. And again, I thank Andrew for his contributions to the Philadelphia Union. I say it all the time. Winning a trophy together it takes everyone, and it's forever. So he's still a big part of this season and lifting that first trophy for the club.
And with Warren and Michi, is Warren a guy that you try to bring back with a different contract given his contributions here? And is Michi, I assume, gone, but how do you assess Michi's tenure given that he's almost ended up never playing for the senior team?
Yeah, look, it's always challenging. At the end of the year, there's going to be change. There's going to be turnover. It's the hard part of soccer. Specifically to Warren, again, a guy who gave everything to the club, worked hard in training, a player that selfishly I loved working with every day, a winner on and off the field. His work with the Black Players for Change group and how much of a role he took in our locker room in the offseason was incredibly valuable. Again, sometimes though, he was at the stage where I think he needs to be playing minutes at the age he is, and those minutes might not have been able to come here. The injuries started to pile up. So we had a hard discussion, but an honest one, and I think one that he'll respect. And no one respects the player, Warren Creavalle, like I do. So again, it's a hard one, but it's time for him to move on. With Michi, again, players' trajectory take highs and lows. Michi had some moments in training, some great moments with the USL. I think his level is right in between. I think he's just above the USL level and maybe the fringe of the roster for the MLS. I think he can play in MLS. I think positionally and system-wise and philosophy, it's best to give him another opportunity to move on now rather than have him be the fifth option with our group. You know what I mean? We have a good stable of strikers, and it's just a matter of the kid has talent. I think he can play in MLS. He can play in Europe, but it was best for both sides that he get the opportunity to move on. So that's kind of where we were at with those decisions.
Jose Rodriguez.
Thank you. I have a question for Coach. Coach, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the mindset of this team going into Champions League next year. Is it more about going for the title, or just going for the experience of having that first opportunity internationally? And also, how important is it for you to have players on your roster with experience internationally, especially on Champions League? Thanks.
Yeah, look, as Ernst said on the first day he was here, he made it very clear. We go to win. We don't go to experience or for fun. So again, the roster that we have, we think, has the right balance of veteran leadership. It's a diverse roster. We represent 16 different countries. So and we have young guys that for this experience in your development is going to be critical. It's a whole new ball game, and I've experienced it, to go play in Guatemala or Honduras or Mexico or Panama, where it can be very hostile. There's great players, there's great competition, and you want to play against the best. So when the Philadelphia Union now has the Champions League behind its name, that's something that I think we're very proud of. But we're certainly not just going to approach it as an opportunity to just throw guys out there and see what happens. We want to go there with the best preparation possible, with the chance to win another trophy. And like I said in my opening statement, the season only ends perfect, and soccer is unique in this way for one team. It's so hard to have a perfect season in our league. If you win the Super Bowl in the NFL, you are the best team in the world. If you win the NBA title, you're labeled the best team in the world. World Series, same thing for baseball. In soccer, you can win MLS Cup, but you could have done better, and you could have won the Open Cup, or you could have won the Supporter Shield. And if you win all three, if some team eventually does that, I know Toronto did it in Canada, but if some team does it in the USA, they'll still say, yeah, but how did they do in Champions League? So there's always a next hurdle and a next challenge in soccer, and I think that's what makes it unique. The perfect season is still out there. I don't think any team, even the Bayern Munichs and Barcelonas, have ever achieved it. So it's what drives us. It's what keeps us going forward. But the opportunity now for the Philadelphia Union badge to be represented among the best teams in CONCACAF is something that we take very serious. We're going to go there with probably difficult and unique circumstances in preparation, but we're going to go there with our best. And it's a chance for our young players to grow. It's a chance for our experienced players to take a new challenge, and also for our coaches, because I'll just say CONCACAF can be a wild experience in more ways than one. So I'll just leave it at that.
Matt to George.
For Ernst, you're going into the offseason with some interest and maybe offers on guys like Kai and Mark. What's it like going into the offseason knowing that it's a possibility that those guys could move on, and how much does that factor into it?
Well, look, at this moment there is nothing on the table, but we are not blind and we'll just wait until something comes. We will do our homework and always look out for replacements and sort out what the market is offering to us. And in this moment, it's plenty.
Matt Ralph?
Jim, in terms of the timing, we've talked about this before. You have the start, the stop, the start, the stop. In terms of just this time that you do have off, players, I know you're probably as busy as you ever will be in terms of preparing for probably an early start in January. But in terms of just the time off, how do you kind of view this time off with the players, and will there be any opportunities for players to train, or is it really just going to be a time of kind of resting and sort of catching your breath a little bit for the players?
Yeah, our Union 2 boys are working hard as we speak. So again, they're getting after it and working to improve. So it doesn't ever stop. The term off season, is thrown around loosely. You're seeing it shrink more and more in our league. Is it a little unique in that the scouting becomes a little harder with the travel and COVID and the uniqueness of that? Absolutely, no question there. Selfishly, I'll miss. I usually get to go away on a nice trip to jump into an environment of another club that's maybe similar to us, or we could learn from for a week or two. I probably won't get that opportunity realistically this off season to kind of try to improve and get better. So I think it affects everybody in a different way. Every player is going to be treated a little differently. They all have individual fitness plans. They have individual plans, in terms of where they're going to go and stay in shape for the off season. Ultimately, though, 2 or 3 weeks are going to go by, and we're going to be talking about, when that first start date is again, and getting back down to training in Florida or wherever it might be. But, we await that start date and that timeline, just like everybody else. But there's still work that constantly goes on. Again, I can't stress enough the work that Ernst and Chris do to piece together the roster. People think it's just all of a sudden now it starts. It's something that's going on nonstop throughout the entirety of the season, so that we're prepared to be set up as stable as we are now with our roster, and then potential replacements coming in as well. So, it's ongoing. It's 24 hours, and it's 365 days a year.
Joe Tansey?
For both of you, when it comes to the assistants on the coaching staff, I know with your success, the players obviously get attention, but the coaches as well. Are you going to hope that the coaching staff remains intact, or will there be changes in that regard as well?
Well, there will be always changes, yeah. But this is not the time now to discuss this. If there is something new, we will inform you.
David Melandra?
Question for both of you guys. One, Jim, you've had about a week or so since the end of the season. Was there one particular thing in the playoff game that stood out that made you guys struggle most of the night? And for Ernest, how does it feel to have Brendan and Mark be called up to the U.S. national team for this latest round of friendlies?
Yeah, look, when we reflect back on the game, there's the obvious, the layoff, the familiarity of the opponent. When we concede for the first time we've ever conceded at home and been behind, I think it hit us. You have to also give credit to the opponent. New England played very well on the night and continues to play very well throughout the playoffs. So, look, make no mistake, it hurts. Whenever you lose, the locker room was upset. Ernst was upset. I'm upset. We wanted to give our fans something special and move forward. On the night overall, we just weren't ourselves. And when I reflect back on the year, we weren't ourselves. Week 1 against Dallas, and in the last game of the season against New England. And that's what will drive us forward to become better, to grow, to learn from it. But overall, now when you do step back and you look at the season, we find ourselves in a good way. One thing, again, there's not really an injury report now too, but I think it is fair to bring up. Jose Martinez did have a little bit of a knee tweak that he hurt in the first New England game, the shield clinching game early on. He played through that and managed it, and I give him a ton of credit for doing it. But again, that was something that did affect him in the ultimate playoff game, and just had to get his knee cleaned up and scoped. So just so everybody is clear on that. But again, minor thing that does come up and is part of the season. So just do want to protect the player in that regard, because he had such a special season, such a unique player, such a big part of our success and really our improvement defensively. Ernst talked about it. We gave up the fewest amount of goals, and so many contributed to that, but Jose did a great job as well. So overall, it still hurts when you lose. When it comes to an end, it hurts. We feel the same pain that our fans feel, and now we look forward to making them proud in 2021.
Regarding our boys in the national team, yeah, we are very proud. I'm happy for the boys. Philadelphia Union has 2 U.S. national team players. This is, I would say, something unique in addition. But of course, it's not the first time. So now I would even say we feel pretty normal in this regard.
We have time for one more question, and we'll go to Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Erica. It's a two-parter for Ernst. First is to follow up on something Joe asked a minute ago about the coaching staff, which is that there have been some reports out of Germany that Open Nikolov is going to move on. How much truth is there in that?
Well, like I said before, this is not the time to discuss this. I know that there was a statement in one of the bigger German newspapers, but apologize, it is not my style to discuss this publicly.
Okay. And the second question is, you spoke earlier about the 10th spot, and what's your assessment of the roster and the depth chart forward, and what you might want to do this winter? I'm sure it's one of those positions where the agents are letting you on, but what do you make of what you have and what you might want to add, especially with you got a little pile of cash in your pocket?
Yeah, you can assume that we were not sleeping in the last couple of months, since we know that Brandon is going, and we have a few candidates. We have priorities. But with the transfer, it's not that easy. You have at least 3 parties who need to agree in, and to bring everybody together is not that easy. But we will do something. You can be sure. And like I said before, we will do something in almost every part of the roster. So there is more to come.
All right. Thank you so much to Jim and Ernst, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be in touch, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.